everyone, and welcome to band this year. My name is MrCofrancesco. I go by Mr. Co, and I am really looking forward to working with each and every one of you to achieve your musical goals and become fantastic instrumental musicians. Today we're going to be focusing specifically on how to put together a mouthpiece. So today I'm talking to specifically my clarinet players and my saxophone players. So we'll make sure that we get that mouthpiece all ready to go so that you can get to playing. Today what you will need is a reed, which hopefully you all have by now, your mouthpiece, and if you are a clarinet player, I'd also love if you had your barrel with you, and if you are a saxophone player, I would love it if you had your neck piece with you. Okay, I'm going to be demonstrating specifically on the clarinet for putting everything together, but saxophone players, don't you worry, everything is exactly the same. There is one part at the end that is a little bit different, whether you play the clarinet or saxophone, and I will show on both instruments, okay? But let's start right here with the reed. As we talked about in class, the reeds are very expensive and they are pretty breakable. They're a little fragile, so we do need to be very careful when we're using our reeds. So the reed comes in a case, which looks just like this, and obviously there is a hole at one end of the case, and that is where you pull the reed out of. You're going to take your two fingers and pull out right here, and make sure that this, which is called the base where I'm holding, that's the only part that we're going to touch with our fingers today, okay? Because this section right here, up here, that's called the tip of the reed. That's the part that will go directly in your mouth. It is also the most fragile part of the reed, and it is super easy to break it or rip it or open it, and we don't want that, otherwise you'll have to use another one. So that's what we got here. We have a front and a back side of the reed. You can see this is what my front side looks like. It does look a little bit shinier, and then the back side is this side right here that's kind of all smooth, and it has some words on it right over there, okay? So what we're going to be doing is we are going to make sure that we can put this back correctly before we do anything else, because we don't want to rip or break it, like we said before, when we're putting it back. That's an issue that a lot of students have. So it came out of the case tip first, so we're going to put it back tip first as well. So not this way, but this way, right? So all you have to do is push it in slightly, so maybe till about it's even with the reed case right there. See how they're kind of even? A lot of times people will say, oh, let me just push this down as long and as hard as I can, and then this tip of the reed will go down here. Your reed will get stuck or your tip will get broken. So one more time, let's practice. Let's take it out, nice and gentle. Hold that base and nothing else, and then put it in gently, just like that. No further is needed. It is not going anywhere. See that? Okay, fantastic. Now you can actually take it out. You're going to put it right in your mouth, like we talked about, right on your tongue. So I'm going to take it out right now because you can't really understand what I'm saying when this reed is in my mouth. But I'd like you to keep your reed in your mouth. It is important that that reed gets kind of moist and wet so that it is easier for the sound to come out of your mouthpiece, okay? So again, keep that in, leave it right on your tongue. And I'm going to move on right now really quickly while you're still sucking away on that to the mouthpiece itself. So you might have a mouthpiece just like mine that has a case on it, and maybe a metal piece or a plastic piece that's protecting it. So all you have to do is take that off, just pull right out. And now what you should see, whether you have a saxophone or a clarinet, is your mouthpiece itself and this silver thing, which as we said is called the ligature, okay? So the ligature will need to come right off, so it's just your mouthpiece. There are, on clarinet and saxophone mouthpieces, there's a front of the mouthpiece and there is a back of the mouthpiece. No matter what instrument you're playing, the back of the mouthpiece has this big hole right here. That's the part that we're going to be focused on now. So I want you to take that and face it back towards you. So the back of the mouthpiece is facing you right now. You're looking at that hole, okay? So what we're going to do is with this ligature, we're going to put it on top. And sometimes people have the issue and they say, mine doesn't fit, it's not working, and that's because it is upside down. This ligature will go and fit perfectly if it is facing the right way. So if you're having some trouble, you just gotta flip it around. okay? So here's our ligature. We have the 2 screws here, right? If it's a little tight and it doesn't go all the way down, and I won't say all the way down, but it goes about that far, all you might have to do is loosen, I should say. Loosen these screws a little bit, pull them towards yourself so that they're a little bit looser. You don't want to do it all the way so that the screws come out. We want them to stay in there, but just maybe 1 or 2 turns, and then it should hopefully be able to go a little bit lower, all right? Now that we're done, you can take your reed out of your mouth. Hopefully it's nice and moist by now. And we're going to put the side that is really flat, maybe yours has the words on it, and that's the side that's going to touch the mouthpiece. So the shiny part should be facing you, all right? So first, before we do that, we're going to take this ligature and we're going to move it up just a little bit so that you can see some space in there, right? Not all the way, but some space. That's where the reed's going to go in between. Remember, the reed does not go in this hole. That won't fit. But it is going to go between the mouthpiece and the ligature. Make sure you don't touch that tip, right? Okay. So when we get to this point, you kind of have to wiggle it a little bit maybe, and then you're just going to move that ligature down, and maybe it's a little bit crooked, and you can kind of use the sides of your fingers. Remember, not touching up there, but you can touch the base. And we'll be moving it so that it's nice and in the center of your mouthpiece, okay? So take a look here. That's a good example of how it should look, all right? One thing you want to avoid, and I'll show you an example of one thing that we don't want to see, is this. Maybe you can notice what's not right with this. Do you see? So my reed right now is a little bit too high. It is too high up the mouthpiece, and you can easily tell by flipping it around, and if you can see the reed from that side, that means it's up too high. So that means we need to move it. So I'll slide my ligature up just a little bit higher so that I can pull my reed down just a little bit. You just want to see that teeny tiny little bit of black from your mouthpiece showing, and that's how you know it's at a good height, right? And now I cannot see the mouthpiece from the other side, okay? Once you're in a good spot, you're going to tighten the ligature screws, and this time we're going to push away from us. That's how you get tighter. But same as before, we don't want to tighten it so tight, because that will actually hurt the reed as well. So just a little bit until you start to feel that the screws are stopping to move a little bit, okay? So that's where we're at. And now your mouthpiece has its ligature and it has its reed. The last step, and I will do this step for just clarinets, and then I'll do my saxophone step in just a second, is connecting your mouthpiece to the next part of your instrument, which is the barrel, if you're a clarinet player, right? So we have this small, kind of looking like a little black tube. So what you're going to do here, reminder, is you're going to be connecting by putting this mouthpiece into the smaller side of the barrel, all right? And quickly remind yourself not to touch this tip while you're doing it. I know it can be a little bit tricky, so you just got to do a little bit of screwing in action here. Push, 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 push. And then here we have our barrel, and then you can connect that to the rest of your instrument, okay? I'll do the same thing with the saxophone now. So instead of a barrel, saxophones have the neck piece, right, which looks like this. As we know, our mouthpiece is going to go up here, but a quick reminder, when you put this on, you want to be holding the saxophone neck piece up here towards the cork. This is called the cork. If you're holding it down here and you're squeezing, that's going to damage this key up here, and we don't want to do that. That's going to cost money, and it's going to make your instrument not work anymore. So we're going to hold it up here, and we'll do the same thing without touching this up here, and we'll give it a little screw on so that's on there as well. Make sure that you turn it so it's kind of straight, just like we know, like that, right? Okay, so that's how the saxophone mouthpiece and neck piece should look together. Okay, so from here on, you can move on to the second video, which is your actual lesson 1. So thank you for taking your time to do this and to spend some time doing it the right way with me, and I'll see you in the next video.